My name is John Dunne, and I hold the chair in Contemplative Humanities at the Center for Healthy Minds at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I work with my colleague Richie Davidson, the neuroscientist, and a number of others in the center. We study lots of things, but one of the main things we study is the effects of contemplative practices on body and mind so as to enhance well-being. So my talk focused especially on the question of what are the obstacles to connecting to others, especially others that we consider to be in our out-group, so to speak, who are not us. There's we and them. And my talk from the perspective of Buddhist philosophy really tried to ask the question, well, what prevents us from connecting to such people? You could say in some ways, I think the main issue is that when we are in an in-group, the reason we're in an in-group is that we have a shared goal. We even have more than a shared goal. We have a shared kind of conceptual schema, a sense of what constitutes reality, a shared narrative of our community, maybe a set of narratives within a larger meta-narrative that allows us to tell a story about who we are and why we're here, what our purpose is, and where we're headed, what our goals are. So those kinds of structures, those conceptual schemas, narratives, and so on, are what help us to form a community, and in ways that are probably unique to humans, enable us to cooperate in magnificent ways that, for example, produce places like Upaya Zen Center, and highways and airplanes and all that. But that capacity to sort of connect to others, to form such a close group that is able to almost meld their minds, so to speak, also comes with this capacity, and maybe something that was necessary as it developed initially, to others, to create others, to other people. And this act of othering actually can be very destructive. When these capacities first emerged, probably in evolutionary history, we're probably talking about the period of hunter-gatherer bands, maybe maximum about 200 people. They probably didn't run into each other very much. It was maybe even a good thing that they othered the other band, because they might have various diseases that could spread to their own band, and certainly there would be competition for territory and so on. But now we live in a world in which we're so deeply interconnected that we're constantly contacting others who we don't see as members of our in-group. And as a result, of course, we come into conflict. So the question is, how can we break those barriers? How can we, in a sense, and probably all of us have sort of concentric rings of in-groups. There's the closest, like our family perhaps, and then a community, maybe even a neighborhood or a religious group, and then wider and wider and wider. Why can't we take that outer ring and make it include, in a sense, everybody? And that focus then, especially from a Buddhist perspective, on what we call our sense of common humanity. Our urge, are very actually productive and in many cases positive urge to seek happiness and to relieve suffering for ourselves and those in our in-group. And we do that spontaneously. Obviously for ourselves we do that spontaneously. Even if I have a little pain while I'm sitting somewhere, I'll move spontaneously to relieve that pain. If I see another in my in-group who's experiencing suffering, I will spontaneously respond to that suffering and so as to help them. In part because in some sense maybe that person is almost an extension of myself. Likewise, if we could extend that so that we included all others, that would obviously go a long way to relieving conflict. So what are the main problems what prevents us from extending our sense of an in-group? Probably one of the biggest things is that we're sort of locked into our own conceptual schema, our notions of what is real, the stories that we tell about ourselves and about our communities. We have to see through these stories and to recognize all stories are just stories. We can't tell a true story about ourselves or about our community. All stories in some sense are always incomplete. They're even in a sense kind of distorted. They ignore certain things and exaggerate other things. So we have to let go of the need to have some kind of ultimately true story about ourselves, our world, our reality. And by having a more flexible sense of what our stories are, we can maybe tell new stories or invite other stories or even take the position of the other and inhabit their universe, their narrative universe, the world of their stories. That's the kind of capacities that Buddhist practice can help us to realize, and Buddhist philosophy is the foundation for that. So this year, as you know, we changed our name to the Varela Symposium. I would say one of the things that was really unusual about this time is that we in a sense kind of expanded our horizons a bit. We weren't so focused just on science. We were more interested in activism. We had an interesting variety of faculty. And one of the things that Francisco Varela really emphasized is there are many different pathways to knowledge and to wisdom. And those various pathways can actually come together to produce a richer sense of our world and of ourselves. That integration of various perspectives, I think, is a unique facet of Varela's view of wisdom. And it's also, I think, what we saw really manifested here in this meeting. We had perspectives that were really quite divergent, but yet somehow they all seemed to be able to come together in ways that not only supported each other, but actually elucidated each other, made each other clearer. So that's something I really appreciated about the meeting.